Hi there, this is Justin from Black Module Studio, bringing you my second Unity tutorial. This one's going to be on player terrain modification. Alright, I just want to quickly describe, I guess, kind of what I mean by that if it doesn't quite make sense. In the last tutorial video, I did runtime terrain modification, which is where you could modify the terrain via script. Now what I'm going to do is enable, sorry, not enable, show you how to create or allow players in your game to modify the terrain, like with mouse clicks. Similar to how in the editor you can actually edit to the terrain, but this will actually be done by players in-game. Basically just using some raycasting and then a slightly modified version of last tutorial script. So I guess let's go and get to it. So I have a new scene here in Unity. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to create a game object here, a directional light, just so add some light to the terrain. Then we're going to go ahead and create a terrain. And I have the standard assets right here loaded up solely so that I can go in here and add a texture. Just make this a little bit more visible. Let's go ahead and throw this grass rock texture on. Alright, so now we have our terrain with this texture and a light on it, so we'll see the shadows more so, you know, when we see these hills and everything. I'm going to take this main camera, I'm going to bump it over. Oop, that's not what I wanted. Right here. Yeah, there we go, right in the middle. Let's go and raise this up a bit so I can see the terrain. Rotate it. And let's go ahead and move it a little closer, just because it's still a little ways from the terrain. Oop, that's maybe too much of an angle we got here. Actually, you know what? Let's do more of a top-down view. I think I actually would like that better. Might work a lot better. Yeah, so 90. Alright. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think this will be okay. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have an extra train in there apparently. There we go. We're going to go ahead and add a script, and this is going to be the meat of the project. We'll go ahead and call this terrain. And open that up in my Sublime text. Alright, so just basic class right here. I'm going to run through this. I've had to do this video multiple times. I had some issues with Camtasia where it continually failed rendering and corrupted the project, so forgive me for being brief, but the blog will have more in-depth details into what's going on. But I'll try to explain stuff as I go. This is going to be our public variable to reference the terrain object. We'll just call it my terrain. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a couple ints. Oop. If I could spell, it's kind of late. Okay, so yeah, X resolution, Z resolution. And then we're going to create a two-dimensional array of floats. We'll call it heights. Alright, and then in here we're going to initialize this. X resolution equals, actually here, what I'm going to do is create a private variable here that is terrain data, and we'll call it tdata. And we, just so we don't have to reference the terrain object every single function call, because we're going to have multiple function calls. So tdata is equal to my terrain data. Okay, just kind of cache that terrain data variable. Alright, so X resolution is going to be tdata dot height map width. And then basically the same thing for the Z resolution, but it's going to be height map height. And then we need to set our heights array. That's going to be tdata.getHeights. This takes 4 parameters, all integers, and what this is basically sampling the heights on the terrain object, this terrain data, from the XZ coordinate to this XZ coordinate. So we're going from 0, 0 to max in the X and max in the Z. And that's it for there. Now in the update function, we're going to want to detect player input. So we're just going to set it to some mouse buttons. So input.get mouse, mouse button. Actually, yeah, we'll just do mouse button 0. So that's the left mouse click. Because we're just doing get mouse button, every frame that the button is being held down, it's going to trigger. So it's I want to do this so we can have smooth terrain movement, so you don't have to click every time to raise a terrain. So now we're going to want to cast array. So let's create a raycast hit object. I'll call it hit. Create array. Let's call it ray. And there's a nifty little function on the camera object. So if we get the main camera like this, we can do screen point to ray. We pass in a vector 2, which is input.mouse position, and that gets wherever the mouse is at on the screen in screen coordinates, not world coordinates, and it translates that basically to world coordinates and sets it as the origin point for the ray. So if physics, there we go, dot raycast hit dot point. Oh, what am I doing? That's the one I wanted. Okay, so if physics dot raycast ray. Sorry. So okay, we're casting array. We're passing an array, and then by reference, we're passing our raycast hit object. And then in here, we want to raise the terrain. And we need to pass in a vector 3 to this function that we are going to create momentarily. And that's the raycast hit object. The point that it collides in world space is stored in a vector 3 variable called point. So hit.point gets that for us. Now we're going to go and copy paste this for our lower terrain function, which is going to be on right mouse click. So first off, we need to make it right mouse click, which is 1, and then we need to call a function that we're also going to make momentarily called lower terrain. Nice and simple. So let's see. For our raise terrain function, what we're going to want to do is we're not going to have it return anything. No need for that, but it is going to accept a vector 3. I'll just call it point. And that's the world coordinate. In world coordinates, the point where we are clicking essentially on the terrain. Alright, so we're going to create a couple ints. I'm going to call it terrain x. No, I'll call it mouse x because where our mouse is. And that's going to be equal to, we're going to cast it to an int. And we want point.x actually. Put this inside, and we want point.x divided by my terrain dot. Oop, I forgot I cached the variable tdata dot size dot x. Alright, and so basically the terrain data has a vector 3, which is the size, which if we go in here I can show you exactly what that data is. If you go to set resolution, the width is the x component, height is the y, and length is the what's the word I'm thinking of? Depth. There we go. Okay, so 200 by 600 by 200. So, where was it? Scrolling. Okay, so we're taking the x divided by the size x, which is 2000, and then we're going to multiply that by our actual x resolution. And that is going to basically localize our mouse coordinate. This should be mouse x. There we go, our mouse x coordinate. So it's local to the actual terrain object. And then int mouse z. Basically the same thing. Oops. point.z divided by t data.size. Man, I'm horrible tonight. Okay, z resolution. Alright. Now what we're going to want to do, we're going to create just a temporary two-dimensional array to hold the point that we're going to adjust. I'm doing it this way because the set heights function that we're going to use to actually physically set the height of the terrain requires a two-dimensional array, and I don't want to pass the entire heights array in, because then that's going to be changing all of the points, which we don't want to do. So we'll just create a new one each time, and then this could be easily modded up to basically, if you want to like kind of make like brushes essentially, you know, like a square brush or a circle brush or whatever, you could easily mod this array up to fit that. So we'll go ahead and say, if I could spell float, make it two-dimensional, we'll call it mod heights for the modified heights, equals new float, then 1 1. That's part you can mod up to make it like, you know, larger or whatever to hold more points and for different brush sizes or types. So float y is equal to, oh sorry, let me describe what this is. Our y is, well, just our y coordinate, basically the height. So first we're gonna set it equal to heights, which is the entirety of all the points that we use get heights on in the start function. We're going to pass in our mouse x and our mouse z, which have, you know, been localized, and we're first setting y to that, and then we're going to increment it. Actually, let's try and go 0. I'm going to have to adjust this. I'm going to have to fiddle with it. Try 0.01, I think, for now. Multiplied by a time dot delta time. Because we're calling it every frame, we're going to multiply by time dot delta time, just kind of smooth it out a little. That way we it doesn't go all crazy, and it's you know, frame rate independent. And then what we want to do is check if y is greater than tdata.size.y, which was by default 600, because we don't want to try and make it greater. I'm pretty sure it automatically locks it anyways, but it's just a good practice to, you know, limit these things. So we're going to set y equal to tdata.size.y if it happens to be try and be larger than that. Alright, and then we're going to go ahead and set our mod heights equal to y. And then also, just so we don't have to continually call get heights, we're going to set heights. This way. Heights. Oops. Mouse x, mouse z equal to y. And then now we finish it up with call to the set heights function. Oop. Probably a dot operator in here. Alright. Set heights function, which takes an x and a z coordinate for essentially the origin point where we're going to start on the map, and then it automatically traverses through the array that we pass in, which we're only passing 1 point, so it's only modify that. But if this was a 2x2 array, it would basically go over 2 and up 2, and create a square, or, you know, however large it is. So, and that's it for the raise height function, I believe, unless I missed something. So we're going to go ahead and copy this, paste it down here. We're going to call it lower terrain, and then we're going to decrement our y, and then we're going to check if our y is less than 0, because we don't mind if it's 0, we don't want it to be less than 0. And if it is, then we'll set it equal to 0. And that looks good. Just the space here, not that, that matters, just white space, but and here, I'm just picky. Anyways, yep, I think that's about it. So now we're going to pop back into Unity real quick. And then we'll take our terrain object and drag this script over and pass the terrain into that my terrain public variable as reference. We'll go ahead and hit play, see if I got any errors. Go and click. Nope, no errors. And you see I'm holding down left click. It's modifying this terrain, raising it up. Might need to adjust that variable. Maybe you want it to go slower or faster. And then I'll go ahead and right click and it lowers it. Alright, so the players can now modify the terrain. Let's go ahead and check. Now this isn't like super performance intensive, but if you start messing around, increasing the resolution of the terrain, or trying to make very large brush sizes, this could mess with the frame rate a lot. It does drop the frame rate. You'll see I'm in the 40s, low 40s, sometimes 30s apparently. That's just a matter of the set heights function. It's still got as far as I know, it still has to traverse through every point in the every point on the terrain. Unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily modify every one of them, which would take even more cycles. But unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast. So, but as you can see, if this is a big feature of your game, then this is definitely possible. So this could also possibly be used for in-game editor tool, maybe players in-game making their own maps or something, just different ways to use it. Probably not something you'd want to be doing every frame in a very intense game like an FPS or something, or a game with lots of calculations going on. But slower paced game, this could definitely work. Or if you maybe create an explosion, create a crater or something, you can modify this up so instead of on click it happens on the explosion. That's definitely something that can be done. So that's about it. Thank you, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this.